Have you ever wondered why one gardener harvests massive, firm garlic bulbs packed with flavor, while another ends up with tiny, disappointing heads even though both planted garlic in the same season? The surprising truth is that garlic success is rarely determined by luck. In most cases, the difference comes down to understanding how garlic grows and making a series of small but important decisions throughout the growing season. Many gardeners believe that once garlic is planted, nature takes care of the rest. Unfortunately, that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Garlic is incredibly resilient, but producing truly large bulbs requires giving the plant exactly what it needs at each stage of its life. Miss one critical step: plant too late, use poor quality seed cloves, overcrowd the plants, or water incorrectly, and the harvest may never reach its full potential. Today, we're going to uncover the proven methods used by experienced home gardeners, market growers, and agricultural specialists to consistently grow large, healthy garlic with outstanding flavor and excellent storage life. Everything you'll hear is based on well-established horticultural practices, not gardening myths or miracle tricks. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how garlic develops underground, why timing is everything, how to feed it correctly, when to remove flower stalks, how to avoid common mistakes, and how to harvest bulbs that stay fresh for months. Let's begin where every successful garlic crop starts, with choosing the right variety. Not all garlic is the same. In fact, one of the most overlooked decisions happens before the first clove even touches the soil. Garlic is generally divided into two major groups: hardneck and softneck. Hardneck garlic produces a central flowering stalk known as a scape. These varieties usually develop fewer cloves per bulb, but each clove tends to be much larger. Hardneck garlic is especially popular in regions with cold winters because it requires a period of winter chilling to develop properly. Many gardeners also prefer its rich, complex flavor. Softneck garlic does not produce a stiff flowering stalk under normal growing conditions. Instead, it typically forms more cloves per bulb and stores significantly longer after harvest. If you've ever bought braided garlic at a market, chances are it was a softneck variety. Choosing between these two types depends largely on your climate and your goals. Gardeners in colder regions often achieve excellent yields with hardneck varieties, while those in milder climates frequently have greater success with softneck garlic. Here's an interesting fact. Garlic actually needs exposure to cool temperatures before it can properly divide into individual cloves. Without enough cold exposure, many varieties may produce only a single large bulb instead of a full garlic head. Understanding this natural growth cycle explains why planting time is so important. Before we talk about planting dates, let's discuss something that determines the entire future: harvest. Seed quality. Garlic is usually propagated from cloves rather than true botanical seeds. Every clove you plant carries the genetic potential of the future bulb. If that clove is damaged, diseased, dehydrated, or undersized, the resulting plant often struggles from the very beginning. Experienced growers almost always plant the largest healthy outer cloves from large bulbs. Why the outer cloves? They're generally bigger, contain more stored energy, and produce stronger early growth than the much smaller inner cloves. Avoid planting grocery store garlic whenever possible. Many commercial bulbs are treated to reduce sprouting, and some may carry diseases or simply be poorly adapted to your local climate. Purchasing certified disease-free planting garlic from reputable growers greatly increases the chances of producing healthy, vigorous plants. Here's another tip many beginners overlook. Never separate the cloves weeks before planting. Leave the bulb intact until shortly before planting time. Keeping the cloves protected inside the bulb helps reduce moisture loss and minimizes the risk of disease entering through damaged surfaces. Now comes one of the most common questions. When should garlic actually be planted? The answer depends on your climate. In regions with cold winters, garlic is typically planted in autumn, several weeks before the ground freezes. This timing allows the cloves to establish roots while preventing excessive top growth. Before winter arrives, those early roots are incredibly important. During winter dormancy, root systems continue developing whenever soil temperatures remain above freezing. By spring, those well-established roots allow the plant to immediately begin vigorous leaf growth. In areas with milder winters, garlic may be planted later in autumn or even during winter, depending on local conditions. Plant too early, and excessive leaf growth may suffer winter damage. Plant too late, and roots may not develop sufficiently before cold weather arrives, limiting bulb size. The following summer. This is one of those decisions that can influence the entire harvest months later. Now let's prepare the soil. Garlic absolutely dislikes compacted ground. Its developing bulb needs loose, well-drained soil that allows roots to spread freely and bulbs to expand without resistance. Heavy clay soils often retain excessive moisture, increasing the risk of rot and reducing oxygen around the roots. Extremely sandy soils drain rapidly and may require additional organic matter to improve water retention. The ideal soil contains plenty of well-decomposed compost that improves both drainage and moisture retention while supplying slow-release nutrients. Fresh manure, however, is generally discouraged immediately before planting because excessive nitrogen and undecomposed organic material may encourage disease problems and overly lush leaf growth at the expense of bulb quality. Soil pH also matters. Garlic generally performs best in slightly acidic to nearly neutral soils, roughly between pH 6.0 and 7.0. Within this range, nutrients remain readily available for healthy growth. Here's a fascinating biological fact. Although we admire the garlic bulb, it's actually the leaves that determine how large that bulb eventually becomes. Each healthy green leaf corresponds to one protective wrapper around the developing bulb. Underground. The longer the foliage remains healthy, the greater the plant's ability to produce carbohydrates through photosynthesis and store them inside the bulb. That's why protecting leaf health throughout the season is so critical. Now let's plant. Each clove should be positioned with the pointed tip facing upward and the flat basal plate downward, where the roots will emerge. Planting upside down forces the shoot to curve around before reaching the surface, wasting valuable energy. Depth depends somewhat on climate, but in many regions cloves are planted roughly 2 to 3 inches deep, measured from the top of the clove to the soil surface. Proper spacing is equally important. Crowded garlic competes for sunlight, nutrients, water, and root space. Most experienced growers allow approximately 6 inches between plants within rows and 8 to 12 inches between rows, providing enough room for bulbs to reach their full size while maintaining good air circulation. Immediately after planting comes another secret to success: mulching. A generous layer of clean straw, shredded leaves, or similar organic mulch provides several important benefits. During winter, mulch helps moderate soil temperature fluctuations and reduces repeated freezing and thawing that can push cloves toward the surface. In spring and summer, mulch conserves moisture, suppresses weeds, and keeps soil temperatures more stable. As the mulch gradually decomposes, it also contributes additional organic matter to the soil. Many gardeners underestimate just how much easier garlic becomes to grow once weeds are kept under control by mulch alone. Speaking of water, this is another area where many people unintentionally reduce their harvest. Garlic requires consistent moisture, especially during active leaf growth and bulb enlargement. However, consistent moisture does not mean constantly wet soil. Roots require oxygen. Waterlogged soil deprives roots of oxygen, increasing the likelihood of fungal diseases and bulb rot. At the same time, prolonged drought slows photosynthesis, limits nutrient movement, and reduces bulb expansion. A simple rule works well. Water deeply enough to moisten the root zone, then allow the upper soil surface to begin drying before watering again. As harvest approaches and leaves begin naturally aging, irrigation is gradually reduced and eventually stopped. Drier soil during the final weeks encourages proper curing and helps improve storage quality. Here's another interesting fact. Most of the final bulb enlargement occurs surprisingly late in the growing season. Many gardeners assume that once leaves reach full size, the bulb has finished developing. In reality, garlic continues transferring sugars and nutrients from the leaves into the bulb until shortly before harvest. Keeping foliage healthy during this period has an enormous impact on final bulb size. Now let's discuss plant nutrition. Garlic is not an especially heavy feeder compared to some vegetables, but it responds extremely well to balanced fertility. Nitrogen plays its biggest role early in the season. It promotes vigorous leaf development, which later powers bulb formation. However, excessive nitrogen late in the season can delay maturity and reduce storage quality. Phosphorus supports strong root development and energy transfer throughout the plant. Potassium contributes to overall plant health, water regulation, stress tolerance, and bulb quality. Sulfur deserves special attention. Garlic belongs to the onion family, and sulfur is directly involved in producing many of the characteristic flavor compounds that make garlic so distinctive. Adequate sulfur nutrition not only supports healthy growth but also contributes to the pungent flavor many gardeners seek. Micronutrients such as boron, zinc, manganese, and others are required only in very small quantities, yet deficiencies can still reduce plant performance. Most fertile garden soils enriched with compost provide adequate micronutrients, although soil testing remains the most reliable guide for correcting deficiencies. A practical feeding schedule often begins with incorporating compost before planting. In spring, once active growth resumes, nitrogen may be supplied through appropriate fertilizers. During early leaf development, as bulbs begin enlarging, fertilizer emphasis shifts away from nitrogen while maintaining balanced nutrition. Avoid excessive late-season feeding. The plant should naturally redirect its energy toward bulb maturity rather than producing lush new foliage. If you're growing hardneck garlic, another important task awaits. Removing the scapes. Several weeks before harvest, hardneck garlic sends up a curling flower stalk. If allowed to mature fully, the plant invests energy into producing flowers and bulbils instead of enlarging the underground bulb. Removing the scape while it is still tender redirects more resources toward bulb growth. Many gardeners report noticeably larger bulbs after timely scape removal. Even better, garlic scapes are edible. They have a mild garlic flavor and are excellent in stir-fries, pesto, soups, or grilled dishes. Now let's discuss weeds. Garlic simply does not compete well with aggressive weeds. Its relatively narrow leaves create little shade, allowing weeds to capture sunlight, moisture, and nutrients. Regular shallow cultivation or careful hand weeding prevents weeds from becoming established. Because garlic roots are relatively shallow, avoid deep cultivation that might damage them. Healthy mulch often reduces weeding dramatically throughout the season. Let's talk about weather. Garlic loves full sun. At least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight each day allows maximum photosynthesis and strong bulb development. Cool temperatures during early growth encourage vigorous leaf production. Warmer temperatures later signal the plant to begin bulb enlargement. Extended periods of extreme heat combined with drought may reduce final bulb size, while prolonged wet weather increases disease pressure. Nature constantly influences garlic growth, but good cultural practices help plants remain productive under varying conditions. Now for one of the most valuable lessons experienced growers have learned. Bigger leaves usually mean bigger bulbs. Every healthy leaf acts like a solar panel, capturing sunlight and producing energy. Protecting foliage from nutrient deficiencies, diseases, insects, and unnecessary damage directly influences harvest size. Speaking of problems, let's cover the most common diseases. Garlic may be affected by fungal diseases such as white rot, rust, downy mildew, and basal rot. Under favorable conditions, the best defense begins long before symptoms appear. Rotate crops. Avoid planting garlic or other alliums in the same location year after year. Use disease-free planting stock. Provide good air circulation. Avoid excessive irrigation. Remove infected plant material rather than composting it if disease is suspected. Among insect pests, onion thrips can damage leaves by feeding on plant tissues, reducing photosynthesis. Monitoring plants regularly allows problems to be addressed before significant damage occurs. Healthy plants growing under balanced conditions are generally more resilient than stressed plants. Here's a practical observation from experienced market growers. Many of them spend surprisingly little time applying products and far more time preparing excellent soil before planting. Strong soil creates strong plants. That principle appears again and again in successful garlic production. Let's pause for another common mistake. Some gardeners become impatient and harvest too early. The plants still have plenty of green leaves, but curiosity wins. The bulbs may look respectable, yet they continue enlarging until much later. Harvesting prematurely often sacrifices significant bulb size. Waiting too long creates a different problem. Outer wrappers begin breaking down underground, exposing individual cloves. These bulbs become more susceptible to splitting, disease, and reduced storage life. So how do you know when garlic is ready? A widely accepted guideline is watching the leaves. As harvest approaches, lower leaves gradually turn brown while several upper leaves remain green. Because each green leaf corresponds to one wrapper surrounding the bulb, harvesting when several healthy leaves remain usually provides enough protective wrappers for good storage. Use a garden fork or similar tool to gently loosen the soil before lifting bulbs. Never pull forcefully on the stems alone. Damaging the stem or tearing the bulb can shorten storage life. Once harvested, resist the temptation to wash the bulbs. Simply brush away loose soil. Now comes curing. Freshly harvested garlic contains substantial moisture. Proper curing allows outer layers to dry gradually while preserving the bulb inside. Bundle plants or spread them in a single layer in a shaded, dry, well-ventilated location. Avoid direct sunlight, which may damage bulb quality. Depending on humidity and weather conditions, curing often requires several weeks. After curing, trim the roots and stems if desired, leaving enough neck to protect the bulb. Store garlic in a cool, dry place with good air circulation. Avoid sealed plastic containers that trap moisture. Properly cured garlic stored under suitable conditions can remain in excellent condition for many months, particularly soft neck varieties. Here's one final fascinating fact. The bulb you harvest today actually began forming months earlier when that single clove sensed changing temperatures, growing day length, and seasonal signals. Everything from root development in autumn to healthy leaves in spring contributed to the final size. Hidden beneath the soil. There was never one magic trick. Instead, dozens of small decisions worked together. Let's quickly review the most important principles. Choose varieties suited to your climate. Start with large, healthy planting cloves. Plant at the proper time for strong root establishment. Prepare loose, fertile, well-drained soil. Provide correct spacing. Use mulch generously. Water consistently but avoid soggy soil. Feed plants according to their changing nutritional needs. Remove scapes from hardneck garlic. Control weeds early. Protect healthy foliage. Watch for diseases before they spread. Harvest at the right stage. Cure bulbs patiently. Store them correctly. When all these proven practices come together, the results can be remarkable. Instead of harvesting small, uneven bulbs, you'll lift firm, heavy garlic with large cloves, rich flavor, and storage life that lasts well into the next growing season. Garlic rewards patience more than almost any other garden crop. Every stage matters, from selecting the first clove to curing the final bulb. Master the plant's natural growth cycle, work with its biology instead of against it, and year after year you'll enjoy larger harvests, healthier plants, and garlic that tastes far better than anything found in most grocery stores. If you apply even a handful of these proven techniques this season, you'll already be giving your Garlic a tremendous advantage. And once you've experienced harvesting truly large, healthy bulbs, grown with your own hands, you'll never look at garlic the same way again.